Hi, everybody. This is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, the Witching Hour, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. Usually really late at night, but now it's whenever you happen to be tuning into this podcast. And do I have some good magic for you today? One of my favorite little packages of magic in itself. I have author, medium, spoonbender, spiritualist, and collector of unusual items, Timothy Shaw, and a dear friend. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you for inviting me on because this is great because you know what? We don't get a chance to speak enough. And
We
and in all honesty, you're one of my favorite people. I look forward when we're at an event together or a conference together. I look forward to like whether it's insane, but I get a chance to like grab you for like what 10 minutes, and then we don't see each other the rest of the rest of the day. But it's always fun to just hang out with you and pick your brain on some stuff that's like really important to me.
and I feel the exact same way about you. So I guess it's like the Mutual Admiration Society, Cove president, vice president, or president. Or something. 'Cause I totally feel the same about just like there's Tim's going to be there. Tim, anybody else, I'll just fangirl over you. Whether we're in a giant planchette together or just passing in the wind.
One never
Um,
knows where we're going to end up, Patty. And believe me, I still get comments about us being in the world's largest planchette doing a Ouija session. That was fun.
that was fun. I mean, how often can anybody say they do that?
Exactly. Exactly.
So for anybody who doesn't know who you are, which I can't imagine, tell everybody a little bit because it's your history to me is amazing about who you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Well, you know what?
I'm
I mean,
listening.
it's kind of long and drawn out. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes
Okay.
edition of it. The religion of spiritualism has been in my family since the 1880s.
Mm.
So growing up, we have a spiritualist community here called Lilydale, and I had relatives that were down there. So back when I was a kid, back in the 70s, way before you were born, Patty, we won't go
Right.
any further, but way before you were born, uh, I used to go down there. My parents used to take me down there during the summer because I used to go to a parochial school during the school year. But all summer, I mean, we spent so much time down there with the relatives and that sort of thing. And I know from looking at me, it's like kind of hard to think that I would have been a hellion back then, but I was. So to keep me busy, like on Sundays, at least for a couple hours, they enrolled me in what's called Lyceum, which is the spiritualist Sunday school they have down there. And that's what kind of got the whole ball rolling. And I started getting really interested in uh, ghosts and spirits and two-way communication and seance and all that great stuff. Because as a kid, I mean, we got a chance to go in. We actually had children's seances. Uh, they would go and teach us different things that we'll talk about a little bit later. We had talked a little bit off the air. Uh, Not so that we, as kids and as we grew up, we wouldn't be like freaked out when physical phenomena happens. So it was a great education. It was a great fun for me, and I think that's what just kept me going. And then over the years, I mean, I'm out there. I used to do a lot of backwoods trekking, which is like survival trekking. I did flint napping. I learned from a lot of Native Americans. I've worked with Tom Brown Jr. He's an American mystic and tracker. He taught me really how to harness and focus what I do. It was his just working with him was amazing. And over the years, I really had some great teachers, but I never really stopped. Well, I took a break when I first got married, but when I got back into it, I just never stopped. I'm still, you know, Patty. Again, it's so great to like hang out with you because of the fact that I'm like one of those people that are always searching. And I was 65 this year, and I've never lost that childlike wish to find adventures and have this excitement and look what's behind the curtain. That's what's great. And I do like and through the different churches that I've served, I've done healing, I've done spiritual healing. I'm a Reiki master teacher along the way. I just love doing this, and I've gotten a chance to meet and learn from great people. My friend Witch Doctor Atu up in Canada, uh, he's a great mentor to me. I work with Santeria. I work with so many people within the craft. And you yourself, I mean, you're like one of my idols, because I should, instead of having these antique photos behind me, I should have a photo of you behind me.
Right.
That's what I need,
Well, you can't see the life-size Tim Shaw that I have right behind my camera. Because I look at you. No, well, I get why we get along, because we are the same person. I never ever stop learning, because you stop learning, or once even worse than stopping learning is once you figure you know everything.
That's when you know nothing. That's exactly.
You know nothing.
I always tell my students, when you think that you finally mastered something, when you finally got to that point, you've just closed the door on everything that you do. And you have to sit down and you have to assess and look around at your surroundings and push on. And this is, we talk about metaphysics. There's so many people that take classes. There's so many people that do X, Y, and Z. But the certificate doesn't mean anything. Okay. The certificate only means that you have accomplished a certain level. Now, what are you going to do with it? You have to keep rolling and working and working and working and working and pushing yourself up, learning. And, my dad, bless his soul, he never stopped. He had a really bad heart attack when he was, I'm trying to think, he was in his early 40s, couldn't work, was disabled. And he lived to 65 after having surgeries and all this stuff. And he went and he never really wasted a day. He always looked at the fun, the adventure, learning something. Before he passed away, he was learning Spanish. So, I mean, I get that from him. It's like you just never, it's a lifetime thing of learning. You just never stop. The minute you stop, that's it. What's there left in the world?
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. So that's why we like each other. We're the same person all the way around. Just you have a beard, I don't. That's it.
But listen, look what's on top of your head and look what's on top of mine.
Okay, I just pushed it up a little bit. I just pushed it up. Really noisy over here. I'll just set that up right there. Yeah, and speaking of always learning, I called you in a panic this week. We're going to go there again, because for those of you who don't know, from the spiritual turn of the last century, they're the ones that made seances popular. They're the ones speaking to the other side. And then they did this magical things like spoon bending, which we can talk about, and table tipping. Well, I just got back from the most amazing Paracon, Vulture City Paracon. We have to get you out to it because it is Wild West. You have to watch for cows when you're driving out. I almost literally fell into a mining pit, like not good, in my car with 3 people screaming. But it's wonderful, Jay and Marie Yates, and they put this on, and I knew I was doing a gallery and I knew I was doing a seance. And then all of a sudden, what they're advertising, what I'm doing Friday night, is table tipping with Patti Negri. And I'm like, I have never tipped a table in my life. Where did they come from? They didn't read it. And what do I do? It's like, Timothy Shaw, Tim, I'm like I panicked. Did I not panic? Going,
yes,
I ran it. We were somewhere together and I knew this was coming. And you have to teach me this. We have to teach me this. And this week oh my God.
That was so cute because, when you first start and it's a mystery to you, you don't even know where to begin. And, again, I probably started doing table tipping 1972, 73, somewhere around there when I was a kid. And that is one of the things that they teach you to kind of introduce you into physical phenomena. And by kind of working with the tables and getting them to move, and, we get to the point where we can tap out words, tap out letters, and somebody will write them down. Like if you're using a Ouija board, you write the letters down. You can do that with, do the same way with the tables. And it's so great. There's different, there's different schools of thought on it, of course. I mean, we have to go and we have to recognize that. But it is one of those things that I think at almost every seance I've ever done, you can feel those vibrations starting to build and they start coming up through the table. You can feel that table starting to shake and then starting to move a little bit. And that's the fun of it. I mean, it's exciting. And people are like, lay people who have never done this. I mean, I'll be honest with you, they poop their pants because it's like, I was in Bay City, Michigan. and I was on board the USS Edson, and I was working with the producer Steve Shippey, so they're filming and everything. And I said to them, I said, this table, I'll bet you we can move this table. I bet you this table will tip. And Steve's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, let's just do this. We had been doing a Ouija board session and all that stuff. So he and I put our hands on the table. And I said, can you feel the vibrations coming up through this table? He goes, yeah. He said, I can. And as I said that, the table moved like 6 inches. He was not ready for that. And, if you can get it just to move 6 inches, that's amazing. But I've been in sessions where the table, like if we use a card table, it's lighter, the table actually spins. And I've been in sessions that the table started to spin so much that people fly off. They can't keep up. They're running with the table. And it's great. And a lot of times you'll get like bangs from underneath it, like boom, even I jump at that stuff. Yeah. Or, it starts to move and all of a sudden it's like it's moving back and forth. And you go, can you spell something or can you spell your name? You go A, B, C, and you'll hit that certain letter and the table bounces, wow. And somebody will write it down, And I'll tell you a quick little story of why I got in trouble at a spiritualist church. I know that, Patty, you will never believe that I would ever get like in trouble in a spiritualist church. But I did.
Never.
Well, we were supposed to be studying. We had a study group for our ordination and for become certified mediums. Well, yours truly asked the group, well, how do we know, the whole family, the whole Fox family thing, how do we know that this peddler who was allegedly murdered and buried in the basement, how do we know his name? How do we know it? Yes, all this information that's coming from the church is telling us his name. All these old volumes is telling us his name. But how do we know? Because one person goes and says, well, his name was, and then somebody else uses it, and then somebody else researches it. The old PDQ block thing is plagiarize, never let your research evade your eyes, but never forget to call it research. So, you have to understand that. So I said, let's try it. And well, they're all going, well, how do we figure this out? I said, let's try the tables. And this thing, I remember it tapped out the first name, which was the same name that we had, that was taught to us. Then it tapped out a different initial. And then it tapped out, instead of Rasna, Rosna, was his last name. It went and tapped out Rosma, Rasma. So we wrote it down and we didn't think anything of it. 2 weeks later, our one of the girls came in, one of the other students came in and said, look what I have. And she had a book by Emma Bridge Harding called American Spiritualism. And she wrote this book because she felt American spiritualism was starting to get really watered down. Guess what his name was? His name was exactly spelled the way it was tapped out, not the way that we learned it. None of us knew the difference. At that time, we were, following the whole church thing. And at that point, I realized that, maybe following this whole church organizational dogma thing may not be right for me. And maybe it's time for me to start questioning. And, I've worked with the tables ever since. And, again, there's different schools of thought about how it works, but where this information came from, I have no idea. None of us none of us knew. None of us had any idea.
The spirits. Because that is amazing. And how you said pee your pants. I've never thought of it before, because my dining room table is an antique and it weighs hundreds of pounds. I've never thought I'm going to tip this. I have drums 12 feet up in the sky that play. They have that boom. I can get rim shots like that from spirits.
Yeah.
But table tipping, no. But you are right. We have this little card table and I kept changing people. I stayed there until the end and then let somebody else take it.
Right.
And just the lightest of fingertips. And these people who are seasoned paranormal investigators were like being there. Like, I can't believe it is bouncing. It is moving. It is vibrating. It is sliding. It is shifting. And every group of people, it had a different energy. There was stronger and lesser. So just like
Exactly.
with when we're doing our gift, the mediumship, or every seance is different because of everybody around it. It
Yep.
was so obvious with the table tipping. And again, all these seasoned pros were like falling off the thing because we got the table to,
But
wow.
you know what's neat is that the reason why I told you to use the card table is you have to crawl before you walk, and you have to walk before you run. And the big thing that other teachers have taught me was that you need to go and instill confidence in these students. I've been sitting there at the one church that I did serve. We had a long, heavy oak table. I believe it was about 6 or 7 feet long by about 4 feet wide. And I always remember I was sitting at the end, and we were all students, and and it was on a rug on top of it, which just makes it even harder because it doesn't slide. All of a sudden, this table was bucking, and it was coming up to my chest as I'm sitting there, and it's just rocking back and forth. That was probably one of the most amazing things that I've ever witnessed. And this has probably, I'll be honest with you, this table has got to be well over 200 pounds at least, and it's really hardcore. But there's some there's ways that you can tip smaller tables, but I like using the card table because when I was taught, we were using like the 3 foot center, that center spindle,
Right.
and I'll be honest with you, you can tip those very easily, and you can cheat on those. All you got to do is just kind of move in a different way, and it'll really bounce. But if you're using a four-legged table, even if it's light, you can get it to move. Okay, somebody might be pushing it, but when you start getting it to come up and down, it's great. We did a thing at the Bergen House in Bergen, New York, where we did a seance there, and the table actually, all four legs came up off the floor for about 3 seconds, about 3-4 seconds, came up and then crashed back down. And we were getting bangs coming through through the actual table itself. And then the activity started to, we started getting like bangs on the walls and the ceiling and the floor. And, we started getting all more physical phenomena going on along with it. But it's really, it's just back in the day, back in the old Victorian days, they used these as parlor games. And I can see why, because myself, I think to me, I love doing it. And whenever we get a bunch of psychics together up here, Tim, break out the tables. Break out the tables. I had a couple of years ago, I did a seance, and we had 5 or 6 tables, card tables, and we had all put them together. Patty, by the end of the night, we couldn't even get through the seance because they were moving all over the place. And you'll hear me yell up, and everybody jumps up, and the tables start taking off in all different directions. And I was in the Sorg Opera House in Middletown, Ohio, and we did it. And the table kept trying to pin one of the girls against like a pillar or a wall. And they'll do that. And I always remember my mentor telling me that it's pretty common. Sometimes, these tables, whatever is coming through the table, will do that just to try to intimidate or be silly. And she had a student that said, "Oh, no, it won't do that." And when it pinned this guy against the wall, she reached into her bag and pulled out a roll of toilet paper going, "I think you need this now," because she said his face got white because, "Oh, it's never going to happen to me." And that was a fun experience there.
Wow. Yeah. That's it's my new favorite thing. It's like, I got to find me a table to tip now. And again, it is what it is. And I could see how it could be entertainment too, but it's also this magic's real. It helps show people that it just opens so many other doors, whether that goes into your mediumship from there or just life.
Exactly.
It's knowing there's more than this TV screen of
But
yeah.
now, when I go and I teach, I'm a believer. Okay. I'm a believer. You're a believer, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't believers.
Yeah.
And I always say that there's three reasons that the table will tip. One is, of course, out and out fraud. That's,
Right.
some people will do that. I've known some people that have moved that are rather portly. I'm portly, that these people make me look like you, because you're a twig, and
I love you. No.
and they, and they'll push it with their stomach. There's different ways that they'll push it with their stomach. They'll exhale and they'll push it to get it to move. Then I believe that there's spirit, of course. I do believe that, but there's, ideomotor response is something that people have to always keep in kind of mind, because a lot of times the subconscious mind works in a way that we don't realize, and that sometimes you're actually, you can actually manipulate like a Ouija board planchette or even the table or whatever. But with the table, it's a little bit harder because you've got more people around it than just like one or two. You've got like 4 to 6 people. And I always tell people, and something that you always have to look for is that I'm a firm believer in, palm chakras, and then I believe that there's a chakra in every fingertip. And I believe that when you put your hands on the table, it has that connection, and you get a little like a one of my instructors from up in Canada. He told me that what you're doing is creating an ectoplasmic connection that's coming out of your fingertips, and you can feel that stickiness, and it starts, and and all of a sudden it's like you feel like your whole body's doing this, and next thing you know, all of a sudden the table's starting to move. But you would think that if you're feeling this moving, how can you move it? Because you've got, like, let's say if there's 4 people, you still got 3 other people with their hands on the table. Why is it moving in that direction? So, I mean, to me, it's still a mystery of why and how. I know how I believe it is. And, I always like to make sure that I present this as a possible explanation to students so that they can get a better understanding in case somebody comes up and, starts saying, oh, everything that you do is fake and that sort of stuff. So, you want to be able to go and present the rational with the supernatural. And that's what I always like to do.
I do too, because you've got to have that debunked. Thank God, that ghost adventure for when it isn't. But I mean, ours, everybody was far away. Nobody's belly could have been touching the table. Tips of fingertips. So I see, because before I even take it into what spirit, I'm energy. I see energy. We're that battery that connected that, like electricity, your hair stands up when you're in a windstorm. We created such a powerful one of those.
Well, that's why you have the medium. They call it the medium, or like my instructor used to call it the ringleader. And you'd have one person that's kind of running the show, and then across from them, you would go and put somebody that would be willing to be the battery. And the battery is nothing more than everybody kind of focusing energy into that person, and it's coming through that person into the table. And I always remember my friend Lisa J. Smith. She was on. She was a radio psychic with me when we were all on CBS Sky Radio years ago, and we were doing this, and all of a sudden I thought she knew. So she's there, and all of a sudden I see her like shaking, her whole body shaking. She goes, oh my God, the energy, oh my God, it's like this electrical current coming through me. And I said, well, yeah, didn't you know that? I never knew that. You got to warn me next time when you do this. I kind of felt bad because I just took it for granted that somewhere along the line she had known about it. But yeah, I mean, there's different ways of doing it, and that's the old Victorian style where you got the battery across from you. That's old spiritualism at its finest.
I loved it. And again, it certainly was. We've got whatever our 100 people, not everybody got to try it, but a lot did. And it just rocked and rolled. So
I'm so happy when I got that message from you.
Because I would have stood up. And again, cute little, when I first read the notes, I'm like, this tells me nothing. I'm like, I just looked at it, but every single one of them came into play, like the sticky and like the this and so it's the confidence.
Patti, I'm one of those people that really is not. I don't have the mental capacity for anything that's really complicated. I'm when it comes to computers, it's like I can click and drag. That's about it, maybe. And when it comes to this, I love the KISS, the whole KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Yep. And when I sent you those notes, I thought to myself, she's going to look at these notes and say, he sent me nothing.
Yeah,
and
I did.
It's like, but that's the only way that I could explain it concisely, to cover everything, every possibility and what's going to happen and how you're going to feel about it. And the only way that you can learn to do it is to actually do it. And like you said, all of a sudden, all these little things that I had written to you and
Every
sent to you,
one of
they're
them.
all coming into play. And that's the fun of it. Again, that's the fun of it. And like, I got the biggest kick. I had a grin when you wrote me and said how well you did. I had the biggest grin all day long, because I was just like, because I was worried. I'm always worried if I, show somebody how to do something or tell them how to do it. And
it's your fault.
Yeah, it's and I would have taken it. I would have said, yeah, my fault.
No.
I must have screwed up somewhere. But I was so thrilled that it worked for you.
And had you written real detailed notes, the stuff would have got lost. So kudos to you, sir. I give you full credit for my new table tipping ability.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple. So try it at home, folks. So speaking, going into the Victorian, again, it's a world I dabble in realistically, everythingly, but it's just so romantic, beautiful time. Aren't you working on some stuff right now? Aren't you working on a new book? So tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, the new book will cover a lot of the morning rituals of the Victorian age, the Victorian age and the post-Victorian age, because the actual Victorian age started with Queen Victoria and the death of Prince Albert, and actually follow right through to the American Depression, where all of a sudden things stopped. And the reason why things stopped, because we have so many, there was so much paraphernalia that you could buy, and you had to go and you had to adhere to all these mores and the proper etiquette of the time. But by the American Depression, you start seeing it all disappearing because there was no extra money. You have all the William Mumler photographs and all the spirit photography, which was fake at the time. And I've actually got a wonderful glass image done by Gettysburg Photography of me like being a ghost. I love that photo. I just love it. But it was done with a glass image, a glass plate, and it was done in the original form, how they would have done it. But there were other things, not just the mystical things, but you poor ladies, oh my God, you guys, it was 2 years of mourning. It was, the first 6 months you had to dress all in black and you couldn't really do anything. And the second 6 months, oh, you could put like little white cuffs on or a little white collar. And, after that, you could go X amount where you could, add purple or browns or whatever, and gradually come out of it. And some women never, like Queen Victoria, she was always in mourning. But it spawned an entire industry of all sorts of wonderful, wonderful, neat things. Like one of my favorite things, hair jewelry. Oh my God, I have some beautiful pieces of hair jewelry that I got 2 watch fobs. I have a small brooch where the hair is so it's like a basket weave in this little brooch. I actually have an ambrotype case, which is a small glass image, and it's got just a little piece of hair in it, where it's just a memory mori type deal. But some of my favorite pieces, I have 2 small ones, and both of them came from France. They are just small ovals, and one has got like hair, and you can see it kind of like, really kind of arranged in a certain way. But I have another one where it's like a flower, and it's like this beautiful little scene. It's all done in hair and human hair. And this was an entire industry. Same thing with the clothing. Same thing with all the jewelry, the jet jewelry, and the what they call French glass, everything, all the black jewelry and all the crosses. It's an amazing time period. And it's funny because I have a lot of photographs. CDVs are small. You see them a lot. You see them at like estate sales and auctions and all that. But they're small paper photographs with a cardboard back, press board, like a pressed paper back. And you see all this paraphernalia that they used to have. And then, oh, then you have like all the death photos, because basically, you know, people, you would die and people would never see you again. They lived so far away. You know, when the nuclear family blew up, you know, everybody went west. Or after the American Civil War, you had people who were, you know, had passed and never had any images taken. They were just lost. And you had, excuse me, and you have all these wonderful, you know, pieces of art and all this. There's so much to it. And then you have all the traditions. And I have some great photographs of like horse-drawn hearses and actual like funerals. And if you were rich, you could have a horse-drawn carriage, you know, and be sent off in style. But if you were poor, they have this little like cart that people would push you down the street in. And I mean, I've got beautiful photographs. Most, believe it or not, people have sent them to me from Serbia, which I was just like blown away that I'd get the stuff from overseas. People would find out I was interested. And goes, "Oh, I found this in a, you know, in a box. You want it? You can have it." And they'll send it to me, and that's beautiful. But all the different superstitions, you know, where somebody dies and you stop the clock at the moment of death. And then you'll see, yeah, sometimes some of the coffins you'll have, you know, sad time. There's a little metal, you know, plate that goes on there, and you set it to the moment that they died. And it's a decorative plate that a lot of undertakers have put on. You would have, you know, your funerals, your actual wakes in the house. And if the rooms were too small, they kind of leaned you up in the coffin against the wall. And a lot of places, if you died up on the second floor, they had what was called coffin corners, where the steps would come down, and then there would be a larger landing so that you could put the coffin, stand it up, bring it around, like bringing down a refrigerator from the second floor, and then bring it down onto the first floor. The stuff was amazing. Photographs, paintings, mirrors, everything had to be covered. You had to make sure that the spirit wouldn't go and, you know, get lost or get stuck in the mirror, see its own reflection, or perhaps, you know, the spirit would get trapped in the house. Or one of my favorite ones is when you have to bring somebody out feet first. The reason being, because if you bring it out head first, the spirit is confused and means that somebody close to him will die soon. So oh my God, there's just so many wonderful, crazy stuff. You know, and what's neat is that we do have a lot of the, we actually carry on I would say, modified version of the Victorian age. They would go and they would make something called funeral biscuits. So, Patty, somebody dies, you come to visit. Okay. When you're leaving, they would give you this little packet, and it was tied, and it had a little, sometimes it had a little ink or a little wax seal on it. And these biscuits were actually cookies. So you got funeral cookies. And that's where actually the funeral breakfast and the funeral brunches come from. You would get, like, they had memorial cards, but not just memorial cards. They had invitations to funerals, and they were black or gray. The letter or the envelopes were all, you know, had borders on them, and there were invitations for you to come to this funeral. So now the little cards, we have the little mass cards, the little funeral cards that we have at so many of these places. That's where that comes from. And one of the neatest things is I always remember when my mother-in-law passed away. She was in hospice, and they opened up the window. And it wasn't to preserve the body or anything. It was open because it was a tradition. And that was another tradition. Open the window so that the spirit can leave, can go up to heaven, can ascend, rather than getting stuck in the house. So it's just fascinating. And the more I'm delving into it, the more first of all, the more I'm delving into it, the more hair I'm losing, because I'm learning so much about stuff I had no idea about. Now I'm working in the I'm covering the undertaker's trade, so I'm learning all about gravity fed embalming machines and that sort of stuff.
Wow.
So this is the fun of it. It's just the fun of it.
So that is good. So we will all look for that book, yet to be named Victoria Morning Stuff.
hopefully next year. That's my I have some surgery coming up in November, so I'm not going to be too active in November and December, so I'm gonna hope that I'm going to be able to go, and I'll be taking my laptop with me and out of my basement, out of this out of the menagerie museum down here,
Mhm.
and I'll be working on it.
Yeah, I know your background is beautiful. I see all your stuff. So you are a collector of things. Do you collect just odd things, antique things, haunted things, all
All
of
of the
the
above.
above?
All of the above. I just picked up a Victorian coffin handle. Beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it was one of those things that just kind of somebody called me up and said, "Listen, I have this. It's been sitting in a trunk. Are you interested?" I said, "Yes, I will take that." And I picked up a coffin plate with a nameplate from 1879. We have a little oddity store here in Western New York that just opened up. And I went down there to say hi and introduce myself and visit. And I saw this on a shelf. I said, I have to have that. So you never know where you're getting all this stuff. But I also collect, I collect a lot of, like, I have an original original spirit trumpet from the 1940s. I actually have an original spiritualist medium's seance tambourine that was made in Cuba and brought here, and this came from one of the old grand dames from her estate after she passed away in Jamestown, New York.
Wow.
And I was lucky to at least get one little piece of her collection. But I also have things from people send me all sorts of stuff from haunted locations, and I do have some rather interesting pieces. I do have a wonderful little voodoo doll from the 1940s from in the New Orleans style. I have dolls that are made out of Andes Peruvian mummy wrap. When they find them in the Andes. There's a whole story behind them, but they make things to sell to the tourists and that. So I was able to get, a really couple nice pieces of that. I've got juju dolls. I have one of my favorite dolls is it's a North Carolinian hoodoo, Appalachian folk art doll. And it's got a beautiful little dress, a little prairie dress on it. Excuse me, but the face and the hands are made out of tar. And the face is made almost in the shape of a reptile's face, and it's got human blonde hair on it. And I didn't know the backstory on it, and I actually believe it or not, I put it up on social media and said, "Look what I got. I don't know anything about it." A woman wrote to me from North Carolina and said that is a protection doll that is given it's created by the mother and given to the daughter as protection against abuse from the husband.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is supposed to only stay within the family. Now, this was sent to me, and of course, I venerate it, so I make sure that it's venerated. It's its own little case, so that it can't be handled or anything. And that is an amazing piece. Some pieces like that are just crazy. I have a crucifix here from Italy. I had a friend of mine from Scotland who collected it, and he had actually taken classes at the Vatican, and he got this crucifix that was used in, I believe, 11 unsanctioned exorcisms, because you have sanctioned exorcisms, you have unsanctioned exorcisms, and these were used in unsanctioned exorcisms, which are more prominent than we care to even think about. And then dolls, I've got all sorts of toys that people have sent me because especially it's kind of heart rendering because you get these little teddy bears and stuff. And one of them came with a small compact, and it was a little girl's favorite little toy. And after she had passed from cancer or something of that nature, they had broke up her room, but they kept that little toy. And I guess one of the other kids had seen like the image of the girl standing there looking at it.
No.
And they didn't want to, here's the thing. They weren't afraid of it. They weren't afraid of the spirit of the little girl, but they wanted the little girl to kind of go on. But also they were more afraid of the other children seeing the little girl and kind of being confused and everything. And they didn't want them to be frightened. So that was, I obtained that beautiful little piece. But yeah, I have great things. And then I have Another neat one is it was in the Gettysburg Dime Museum that closed in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and it was a memory mori, and it's a little face. It's like a little upper, like shoulders and head, and it's made out of brick slip. And I talked to the guy, the former owner of it, and he said, "Listen," he goes, "if you want it, I'm closing the museum. I'll sell this to you. But I want to let you know that I'd really like you to go and continue the research on it." And he gave me this packet of information. And what it is like an 18-year-old kid got killed in a brickyard accident in Pennsylvania, in Western Pennsylvania. And his coworkers made this little image of him, and it's made out of brick slip, because what they do is, if you have extra slip in that, what they do, they make animals, they make things for the sell, folk art pieces that they put in the little shops and stuff. But they made this of him and gave it to the family, and
Wow.
he obtained it, and then he gave me all the information with it. So the memory morais are really, those are neat pieces whenever you find them. Then of course, Patty, me, you saw the bone saw that I picked up in Michigan.
Like,
But
ooh, bone saw.
the two of us were, it was a riot, because I saw this bone saw for sale, and I looked, and I bought it because I have an asylum and sanitarium kind of collection along with a voodoo collection, and I had this bone saw. I go, "Patty, look what I got." And she goes, "Oh." I said, she goes, "How are you going to get that home?" I said, "Don't you worry about it. I put it in a box, marked exorcism kit on it, put it in through my checked luggage, and it came home perfectly."
That's amazing, because airports are difficult for people like us.
Yes. Patty, I filmed the first time I filmed for Portals to Hell. I was going to Flagstaff, Arizona, and I had a Ouija board in my backpack. And I'm standing there waiting for my backpack to come through. You're standing there, you're trying to be as nice as you possibly can to all the TSA agents and everything. And the backpack goes through the machine, it stops, goes backwards, and then goes through the machine again. And the guy looks, "Is that your pack?" I say, "Oh yeah." "Oh, okay." That's all I got. That's all I got. Never bothered me after that, but
I know. I'm like, okay, I'm not breaking any of those TSA rules, 3 ounces, but all the herbs and the oils and the odd shaped things, and between both carry on and my check luggage, I almost every plane trip with the check luggage, you have one of those little slips from TSA that says, "We went through your luggage just for safety's sake." Yeah, and mess everything up.
Well, I could a couple of years ago when I was coming, I forget where I was. I got home and I opened up my luggage, and I had like 6 or 8 Ouija boards in there, and I had different planchettes, and then I had I think I was teaching. Yeah, I was teaching seance someplace, and so I had all this. I had a trumpet in there, and I had all this other stuff, and I could see where somebody opened it up, pulled my clothes up, saw the Ouija board, put the stuff back, and just put the slip in and zippered it up. It was like, I don't want to deal with this. There's nothing going to explode, so I don't want to deal with it.
Nope. Right. I'm cursed. I know. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyway, time is flying. I could do this every single day with you, but then we'd never get anything done. But tell people anything you want to tell them, where they can find you, where they can learn from you, social media, websites, anything upcoming you have that you're going to be doing.
Well, my website is www.timothytshaw.com, and that has a lot of my events, and it has just a lot of my bric-a-brac and my bio and that sort of stuff on there. I'm on Facebook. You're looking at like the biggest social media whore this side of the Mississippi, because I have to say that I am on social media. I'm just amazed by it. I'm an old man that just goes, "Holy cow, this stuff actually works. People actually read this stuff."
It's wild.
And but I'm on that. My schedule right now is starting to come to an end. I have, like I said, I told you, I have an intimate seance that I am doing at Paranormal Oddities. And the reason why it's an intimate seance, and I call it my Forbidden Knowledge Tour, is because we are going to do True Victorian right from where I'm going to provide a meal, and we're going to do a seance. and then we're going to break into your favorite thing, table tipping.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll I don't know, maybe we'll bend a spoon or two, we'll see how that goes. And from there, the place that we're going to is very haunted, so we'll see what happens with that. But also, I believe it's the second weekend in November. That'll be my very last event, where I'm going to be in Dundee, Michigan, at the Old Mill, I love this place. It's a phenomenal place. And Tuesday nights, you can come and listen to my podcast on Facebook. I just throw it up there, just have fun with it. It's called the Black Cat Lounge, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight's guest, because this is a Tuesday that we're kind of working with today, is going to be me. I'm just gonna talk about our little chat today, and I'm going to talk about all the things that are going to go on. And then I'm going to I'll probably do a couple readings and do some online stuff and just have some fun with it. But I usually have like some really neat guests, like, I think Patti Negri will be coming on my show soon.
Yeah.
So we can go and we can continue this. But yeah, I'm going to be pretty busy and up until November, and then I've got, like I say, I'll be sidelined, recovering in November and going into December, and then hopefully, in January, I'm going to present something. I did this a few years ago that was pretty successful. It's called a Cabin Fever lecture series, where once a month I get together with another person, and we go to different shops and we go to different locations, and we talk and we do we speak about different things that we are specialized in, and then sometimes we'll have a ghost hunt along with it. So there's a couple places up here in Western New York that already have. The minute I offered it, they jumped at it.
Ooh, you guys check it out. Follow him, TimothyTshaw.com. On Facebook, is it Tim Shaw, Timothy Shaw, Timothy T. Shaw?
It's TimothyTshaw.com.
There's a cat coming on my keyboard. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's the Black Cat. My show's called the Black Cat Lounge. It's just appropriate.
It's good. She's not black. I have to paint her. She's a calico. Get it. Anyway, truly one of my favorite people, truly saved me this weekend, gave me a new skill, new magic, and you guys check him out. He's one of the dearest, sweetest, most magical folks I've ever met. So thank you for blessing us with your magic.
Thank you for inviting me. And Patty, I'm telling you, you know what? It's a mutual admiration society, because I remember when I met you the first time, and I thought, listen, I've met a lot of people in my life, but you're one of the people that I've always wanted to meet. And you are as nice in person as you are out there in the world.
Oh, thank you. And I have a cat.
Hi,
little
baby.
bitty kitty.
Hi, baby.
She's never done this before, so you're special. Oh, this is Grace. Baby Grace. Anyway, no animals and children taking the show. So thank you, you guys. Check him out, Timothy T. Shaw. Thank you, Magic. Go bend a spoon. Bye.